Someone is Hiding on Alcatraz Island by Eve Bunting, Chapter 6. At first, I was paralyzed with fear, but then I got such a spurt of panic that I moved faster than I ever thought I could. I began thrashing up the ladder, but I could hear Jellybean close behind me, so close that I knew his reaching hands were only a couple of rungs below me. As I tried to get away, terror made my feet move too quickly, and I stumbled, losing the pattern of the climb, slowing myself down. My breath tore at my throat. There was sweat in my eyes, and the ladder above me went out of focus. The rungs melted into each other, the metal tilted at a crazy angle. I blinked and stopped. A hand closed on my right ankle. I struggled, clinging to the bars, hooking my left foot around the outside rail. Jellybean yanked. My arms were jarred so badly that they almost came from their sockets. "Let go!" I wound my arms frantically around the bars. Jellybean jerked again. I unhooked my free leg from the side rail and kicked back at his hand. He swore loudly, the words softened by the wind. Then my ankle was free. I glanced frantically down between my legs and saw his arm reaching up again, and I don't know exactly what happened in the next second or how it happened. I think Jellybean came up another rung just as I kicked again. He fell like a clown doing a funny backward dive into the pool. I clung to the ladder and turned my face against its cold, wet rungs. My stomach was heaving. Over and over, I kept saying, "Oh, please, I didn't mean to do it." I couldn't get myself to move either up or down. It was so easy to fall, to drop back into that space, to crash to the ground below. And where were the rest of the outlaws? Were they all down there, bending over Jellybean, starting to climb up after me and get me for getting him? They wouldn't listen if I said I hadn't meant to do it. I hadn't meant to turn Priest's brother over to the cops either. I never meant to do anything. I forced my head to turn. I forced myself to look down. Jellybean lay spread out on his back in a nest of grass and weeds. I could see the pale blob of his face. He looked as if he could get up any second and start after me again. The thought lubricated my locked arms and legs as I began climbing. Wait, it'd be better to go down and try to get around him. Even if he tried to catch me, he'd be slower now after the fall. I'd get away. If the rest of them weren't waiting to ambush me as soon as I set foot on the ground. Where were they? Although it was dark, there was a glow from the sky. The lighthouse beam left the night untouched here, but as it turned, I could see nothing in any direction except the wind-torn grass and the wind-bent trees. Maybe Jellybean had wandered off alone again, the way he'd done when he went into the morgue. If the other outlaws were nearby, they would surely have gone over to him when he fell. I came down on the way slowly, my eyes flickering to the path and the cliff drop and the far stretch of grass. I let myself fall as I dropped from the last step, and I lay very still, listening. There was nothing to hear but the sighing of the wind in the tall weeds and its whistle through the slats. I thought I could hear the soft fall of light rain touching the metal above me, and there was a sound of the sea, its murmur like blood in the arteries of the island. Only a small space separated me now from Jellybean, and my insides began to heave again. I'd keep to my plan and run away. First, though, I'd go over there and check him out. I didn't want to, but I knew I had to. I edged through the grass at a crouch. Jellybean lay limp and relaxed, comfortable looking in his springy bed. His eyes were closed and his mouth open. I bent over him. He hadn't been up that far in the ladder, not really. Maybe 10 feet at most. I wished I had a light, and then I remembered his matches. They'd be in his pocket. My hands didn't want to go near his pockets or him, but I made them. I sheltered the match's small flame in my hand and held it by Jellybean's head. All the time, I was looking over my shoulder, keeping an eye out for the rest of the outlaws. It was creepy, the way the light flickered across Jellybean's face, turning his nose into a beak that threw its hooked shadow onto his chin. I didn't see any blood. I made myself light another match, and it was then that I noticed his leg. It was bent under him. I don't know how much about stuff like that, but even I could tell the leg was broken and he was unconscious. The flame blew out, and I was glad. I didn't want to look at Jellybean anymore. What I wanted to do was get away before his friends found me. There had to be somebody in that ranger station. There had to be. I dropped the matches in my pocket, turned, and ran across the grass under the tower. And it was then that I saw the white beam of a flashlight bobbing toward me in the grass. I hit the grass belly down. Whoever was coming was not moving quietly. He was whistling an old Elton John song that I'd heard a million times. I raised my head about 1/10 of an inch and peered through the darkness that lay behind the bobbing ball of light. It was someone in dark pants and a jacket. A ranger, or someone pretending to be a ranger. I looked back at where Jellybean lay and could see nothing. He was sunken deep in his grassy nest. The figure had passed before I recognized it. The ranger wore no hat, and the forward glow of light made a red halo around the great mass of hair. It was Biddy! Biddy! I was whispering in case the outlaws could hear, in case I would waken Jellybean. She didn't hear me either. The light bounced on. Biddy! I ran frantically after her. The flashlight wavered. The figure turned, and the beam moved till it reached my face. It's me, remember? The boy in the boat? You got me this jacket? I couldn't believe my voice. It didn't sound like me. Maybe I'd turned into somebody else? She was walking back to meet me. What on earth are you doing here? Everybody's gone. Why didn't you leave on the boat? She stopped in front of me. I didn't move. Look, I said in my new not me voice. We've got to get the cops out here. And an ambulance. There's somebody hurt bad. And I suddenly realized we were standing there talking, not even keeping our voices down, and this place was crawling with danger. We've got to go, I whispered, grabbing her arm. There's a gang here. They came out after me, and... Wait just a second. I could sense her disbelief. She pulled her arm away. Let's take this one thing at a time. First off, we'll go down to the ranger hut. Maybelline should be there now, and you can tell us about it. She stopped. Neither of us had heard the outlaws come up behind us. They can move as quietly as lizards when they want to. The way they did when they crept up on Bobby Blue's pigeons. I heard Maxie's giggle, and I knew we were lost. The big beacon in Cowboy's hand was a searchlight that fastened itself on Biddy's face. It paled the beam she shone on them. What? Biddy faltered. Who are you? Are you rangers? Her voice trailed off, and I could see she couldn't figure what was going on. They looked like rangers from the waist up anyway. The cat was cradled in Cowboy's arms. Its eyes gleamed green in the light. What have we here? Cowboy asked, and Maxie grinned and said, I don't know, but whatever it is, I like it. Biddy's hand went to somewhere at her waist under the jacket. It was Maxie who lobbed the radio he carried into Priest's hands and jumped her, pinning her arms. Her flashlight fell and began rolling down the path, stopping with its beam trapped in a tangle of weeds. Maxie pulled Biddy's wrist from under the jacket, and in the spotlight glare, I saw a small, pocket-sized transistor. A walkie-talkie, I guess. He pried it from her fingers and gave it to Cowboy. Cowboy didn't even look down. His arm arched, and he threw the little transistor high and far in the direction of the sea. The cat, squeezed as Cowboy stretched, let out a screech. Cowboy dropped it, and it sprang off in the shadows. Aw, Cowboy, Priest said. We could have had fun with that. I didn't know if he meant the cat or the walkie-talkie. Let me go, Biddy said loudly, and I suddenly realized that Maxie was still holding